Hello and welcome to another edition of TV Enthusiast Weekly Show, Marvel vs. DC vs. TVE. I'm your host, Will Rohrig, the Keeper of Comics. Joining me tonight is Tyson Gifford, Editor-in-Chief of TVEnthusiast.com.
Hello, everybody.
And tonight we're discussing the latest episodes in the Marvel and DC TV universes, including Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Flash is on hiatus this week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get started. Let's discuss the latest episode of Arrow. This was actually a major episode because, like, a major event, something that they've been teasing all season long, actually.
Who's in the box, Will? Who's in the box?
What's in the box? Yeah. They've been teasing this all season long, and it finally happened. They finally killed off Felicity. No, I'm just kidding.
My first thing I said after seeing that was, why couldn't it have been Felicity?
Oh, I love it. No, spoiler alert. Black Canary, Laurel Lance, ended up being the person in the grave. She ate one of Felicity's omelets, and that was it for her.
The omelet failed Laurel. Yeah. It's disappointing because it should have been Felicity, even though we knew it wasn't going to be because we'd seen a scene. There's still part of me that was hoping that was maybe like a delusion that Oliver had, that he saw her in the car. And he was kind of talking to himself.
Arrow isn't on that level, though. So, you know.
Yeah. But I was hoping so much that it would be Felicity because she's just the most worthless character right now. And she needs to go, and she's not going, and it's frustrating and annoying.
You know what's worse? They used Laurel's death. They used her last words to ship Oliver and Felicity. Yeah, even in like this character's dying moment, they have to like push that agenda. It's so stupid. She's like, "Oh, Oliver, Felicity is the love of your life." It's like, Laurel's dying. Can we not have it be about Felicity? Just once.
Yeah.
This is awful.
Felicity comes back and immediately has to be the most emotional of the people reacting to kind of show that she cares, even though she's like a robotic monster.
Even though she wasn't like around for the entire episode, and like Diggle was like a freaking idiot this episode. He was like, I don't know. Okay, so this was actually a pretty decent episode, all things considered, because Felicity wasn't in it till like last 5 minutes. I think that definitely has something to do with it. I mean, there seems to be a correlation. Last two episodes made me want to quit the show, and they were all about Felicity. This episode I enjoyed. Felicity wasn't in it till like the last 5 minutes. Coincidence? But
methinks not.
Methinks not. But this was actually kind of a decent episode. Basically, the plot is, like, Andy Diggle. It all centers around Andy Diggle, who is basically pretending to be working for Team Arrow while he's really working for Malcolm Merlyn and Damien Dark. Although Oliver catches on to this pretty quick, but Diggle's like, "Oh no, he's my brother. He can change." Derpy derp.
Even though I said no before.
Even though I said no, even though I want to kill him before, I want him dead. It's like, yeah, this was like a really weird character term for Diggle because earlier in the season, Diggle was like, Andy had no hope, and like when everybody was telling Diggle to give Andy a chance, Diggle was the one like, no way, he is not my brother. And now all of a sudden, when it's super obvious that something shady is going on with him, Diggle's like, "No, he can change. Oliver, you're the one who told me people can change." I'm like, oh my god, Oliver's right. And then when Oliver like confronted him and was like, "I know who you are." I thought they were gonna like pull some stupid swerve where Oliver's just being like a jackass and Diggle and Andy really was like telling the truth. But I'm glad like that didn't happen because that would have been stupid. But like what happened was, Andy was betraying everybody and it got Laurel killed. So now Diggle is pretty much directly responsible for Laurel being killed, more or less. Thank you, Diggle.
Yeah, I blame Felicity.
Yep. Diggle got like Felicity took over Diggle's mind and made those terrible decisions.
Just whenever anything bad happens on the show, I blame Felicity.
It's Felicity's fault that she wasn't there. She wasn't there to take the knife instead, or the arrow, or whatever the hell Laurel got stabbed with. Other than that, it was
she decided she didn't want to take the arrow anymore. No!
I was the Black Canary until I took an arrow to the abdomen.
Yeah.
Skyrim jokes. Yeah, I mean, it's like, out of all the people, this is kind of enraging because I felt Laurel's character was getting better. She was definitely being a lot more enjoyable character to watch than Felicity. I felt like there was a lot more they could have just done with this character, but they just kill her off because, shock value or something. They decided early on that somebody's going to die, which is a really terrible way of like writing a story. Like, why the hell would you do that? Yeah. Like just, somebody's got to die this season. Okay, why? It's like, okay. So now so you got rid of a good character for like no reason. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome storytelling. Arrow. And it's like,
well, it's like it couldn't be Diggle, because if it was Diggle, then it would be just Oliver and a bunch of girls. It'd be like he had a harem. It would be kind of weird,
Pharaoh turned into a harem.
And it wasn't going to be Felicity because they showed her in the car, and because, I guess our wildest dreams can't come true.
It's not going to be it's not going to be Felicity because everybody working on a show has like a giant heart on for her, so it's not going to happen. Ever.
Yeah.
In fact, Oliver Queen is going to die before they kill off Felicity. Like, the show will literally become Felicity. Before they get rid of her character. She's like the Steve Urkel of this show. It's like, yeah, pretty much. So unfortunate. It's like, so yeah, it's gonna be, I guess Laurel is the one that makes the most sense. I mean, the reasoning for it being Laurel, like, checks out too. I mean, Damien Dark did make a promise, and, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool scene to see, like, Damien Dark be like, I keep my promises, and then he kills her because that means, he's a serious villain. He means business, he's not like, it makes him like less of a joke as a villain. Mm-hmm. So I like that. So, I mean, as far as like
there are ups and downs.
There are ups and downs. Like, as far as the actual, like, why it happened is like, okay, yeah, I agree, but still, it's shitty. Why?
Yeah.
I'm still pissed off, and I'm still debating on whether or not.
I'm more pissed that Felicity's still alive than I am that.
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen? It's like Oliver's going to be grieving over Laurel, and then Felicity is probably just going to find something about that to like torture him with again. It's like, I'm grieving too. What about me? Me. Because that's all this character ever does.
So you may have had a relationship with her in the past, but I'm Felicity.
Yeah, that's, I know. My feelings are important. Okay, whatever. Yeah, this show is just unwatchable at this point. I'm not gonna watch past this season. I don't think, unless like it improves dramatically. I think I'm pretty much done with this show, which is sad to say. but it just went in the decline, and it's been in free fall ever since like season 3. And I keep hoping, for signs of, it getting better, but they're just pushing this Felicity character, and they're making her actually worse and worse as time goes on. And it's like, and they're making her like a bigger focus of the show, more so than she needs to be, while making her worse. And it's making the show unwatchable. And so, yeah. And that's where we're at with Arrow. But enough about that. Let's talk about Legends of Tomorrow, which is the other DC, the sophomore show in the DC TVU.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow. This episode was, what happened this episode? Jesus.
This is the one where they went and they did the Hitler question.
Yeah, they did the Hitler question. They went to the future. They went to the future to kill one of Vandal Savage's lieutenants, or like this guy that Vandal Savage like influences to take over and like kill a bunch of people, and then after he does that, like the Vandal Savage like kills him and takes over the world via proxy. So basically, Vandal Savage, instead of like Vandal Savage like single-handedly taking over the world, he just dupes this guy into doing most of the work for him, and then takes over.
Yeah, so you have this guy that's like directly referred to, like they didn't have to refer to him as being looked at like Hitler. It just made it, I mean, that's always been the most famous like time travel question. Yeah, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you? And would it, prevent all the atrocities of the Holocaust? That's like, it's such everybody's heard that question a million times. So when you ask the Hitler question, you don't have to directly reference Hitler. All you have to do is set the cards up to do that. So it was kind of weird that they kind of forced it in, like maybe the audience isn't going to realize what we're going for. Let's relate him to Hitler.
Yeah, let's just directly reference the Hitler question so people like understand what we're going for. Subtlety is not the show's strong suit.
It was done much better in Lost, when Saeed decided to kill Ben Linus when Linus was a kid.
Right, exactly.
That was done in a much better way than this. But even still, I do like Hitler question episodes. It's always kind of fun to see how they choose to go with it. And in this case, they made Hitler worse.
Yeah, in this case, they made things worse instead of making things better, because like as they like Rip Hunter was like, oh, we have to kill him, and then they're like, oh, well, we're discussing killing a child. That's pretty monstrous. Like, we shouldn't even be discussing that, and so Rip Hunter, he's like, well, they're like, well, let's just remove him from the timeline then. Let's kidnap him and dump him in some other time. And then Gideon's like, that doesn't change anything, pretty much. And I'm like, how?
And then they're still like, after that, they're still like, well, should we kill him then? It's like, well, if it doesn't change anything, what does it matter if you kill him or keep him alive?
I know, right? Exactly. Well, what does it matter if he exists? Like, that's dump him in the Stone Age. That doesn't change anything. Well, then, he's obviously not that important to the timeline. I don't, unless I'm misunderstanding how time travel works. Like, they didn't even try to explain that. Why they didn't even bother to even try to explain why removing him from the timeline wasn't that effective. They said, oh, it doesn't change anything. Explain show, explain. Because plot reasons, exactly. Because we need to struggle with this question. And it's like, so Rip Hunter kidnaps him, takes him off somewhere, and fails at killing him because Rip was going to kill him, but then he finds out he can't bring himself to do it. And all this just made things worse because now instead of in 5 years, crap going down. It just happens immediately. Like, yeah. Vandal Savage actually takes over sooner because since this happens 5 years earlier and this kid hasn't matured into a man, like the kid's 15 instead of being 20 or whatever, so since the kid is still underage, that means Vandal Savage takes over in his stead. And now he doesn't even need to, it's like, good job, guys, of making things worse somehow.
And they still haven't even gone over why Vandal Savage wants to take over the world.
And and Fallon's talking about
why is he struggling for so long building this elaborate plan to take over the world? It's like, hey, yeah, ruling the world is cool and all, but he's already kind of in a position where he always has influence and luxury. So it's like, at that point, why does he give a shit?
Yeah, no.
He doesn't care about any movement or anything. There's nothing, the only thing he cares about besides, living in luxury and enjoying himself and all that. The only thing he cares about is, trying to get in the pants of Hot Girl. And World Domination doesn't seem to be anywhere close to helping him achieve that. So it just doesn't make sense. It's like
the World Domination angle doesn't make sense for his character because this character is immortal. This character is immortal, and his primary motivation is he keeps his immortality by killing Hawkman and Hawkgirl every time they reincarnate. I don't see how World Domination fits into that. Unless, when you're immortal and you live forever, you gotta have a hobby, right?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. It's just a typical, super villain, thing, gotta take over the world.
He needs his pinky.
There was also another, subplot where, this place, this conglomerate, because this is a super corporation now. Instead of nation states, the world's run by corporations, which is kind of a nice jab at the whole thing, corporations being people and whatever, the influence corporations have in our society these days.
That's the new go-to for dystopian science fiction. Isn't a government out of control, but corporations running everything.
Yeah, exactly. So their police force is basically autonomous robots using Ray Palmer's tech. And we find out Jewel State, who guest stars in this episode, is Ray Palmer's
from Firefly, yeah.
Yep, from Firefly. She's Ray Palmer's great granddaughter. Although not really, because she's his brother's, who has
great grandniece.
He's his brother's great granddaughter, who has never been mentioned before ever, but suddenly exists, I guess. Thanks. Nice swerve there, guys. It's
so he's gonna be like Ray Palmer, except he'll have the evil mustache.
Yeah, I know. And so that happened, and then we got some with Mick Rory, Heatwave and Captain Cold. They worked out their differences with their fists.
Yep. That's all Mick understands.
That's all Mick understands. And now there's some hunters or something coming after them. Apparently they're not going to stop until they're all dead. So that's something to look forward to.
That are more machine than man, apparently, or something like that.
The man. And then that's it. That's everything.
Well, the most exciting thing about Legends of Tomorrow is the preview for next week.
Oh, Jonah Hex. Hex, yep.
Finally, I've been talking about this for a while now. This episode was actually what I wanted from a futuristic Legends of Tomorrow episode. In the sense of not what they did plot-wise, but in the sense that they went into kind of the depiction of the future was not just the same place with a different like tint. You know what I mean?
You mean like
I've been talking about that with the show all along. That, like,
you mean like the Star City episode?
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're just gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna put like a trash can with a bonfire in it in the background, and that's enough. And that'll tell us what everything else is. And that's been kind of my issue with Legends of Tomorrow, is that like they can travel all over time and space, and most of the time they don't really make it count, like they don't actually change the look or the way things act to represent that it is a different time. And so that's one thing I did like about this last episode, is the depiction of the future like that. And now the next episode is their biggest departure yet.
Yeah, this is the Old West. I also like the mention of the Star Labs conglomerate, like they own Central City. So, I like that mention. That's about it for Legends of Tomorrow. Next week is exciting. Looking forward to that. This episode was okay. Wasn't really. I mean, it was definitely better than last week, but I'm still not too hot on this episode.
Apparently, the main actor on the USA show Suits. Have you ever seen that?
No.
He apparently has been cast, and he's going to appear in the season 1 finale and the season 2 premiere, and maybe more. Like they said, like he's going to be in those 2 and maybe more. And all they said about it is that he's going to be a character that the fans will love, or something like that. So I imagine it's going to be a comic book character.
It's going to be Batman.
Yeah, he's a bit small for Batman. I can't see him playing Batman, but I could see him playing, maybe some other comic book character that they'll bring in. Maybe they'll add him to the team if he ends up being popular or something, which would be cool, because that's the thing, is we want more people. Like, it would be really cool if Jonah Hex joined the team.
Right.
They're not doing that apparently, but if they're going to do a Jonah Hex episode, he's this Old West baddie. It would be awesome if like they go into like modern times and they have this Old West guy with a scarred, burned face. That would be really cool. Like, that's the kind of thing I want to see from Legends of Tomorrow. I want to see like this, a party of people that are separated by time brought together, and then you get all those kind of like fish out of water elements where everybody's like, oh yeah, this is the internet, and he's all, the what? That's kind of what I want to see.
Like right now, like everybody is from 2016, so it's kind of boring. They should like they should get Jonah Hex on there, get Constantine on there.
Constantine would be a cool addition, yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hold on just a second. I think Constantine would be a really cool addition, especially because of Damien Dark being like having magic powers and stuff.
Yeah, it would be.
And all the kind of magic elements. Yeah, that would make Constantine very cool. And his personality would be a big help to the show.
Yeah, but okay, so moving on to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because there's something I want to reference in this. This was the best show of this week, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, easily the best episode of any of the 3 shows was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're just
oddly enough dealing with time travel too, or not time travel, but time.
This was like though I really liked how they handled this, because they obviously this is like a sensitive thing, and there's so many ways you could just be like cheesy, or like Legends of Tomorrow like just deals with this subject in like the cheesiest way. So does The Flash, really, but I like how like they dealt with this on Legends of Tomorrow. But I want to tie it into something we were talking about earlier with Legends of Tomorrow, and why I want to get to S.H.I.E.L.D. Was because we were talking about Vandal Savage and why he wanted to take over the world and everything. And I thought there was like this really cool moment on this week's S.H.I.E.L.D. where Booth, it's not even Booth, we're like, that alien, that Inhuman, played by, Ward.
Yeah. It's, not Hydra, it's Hive.
It's Hive. Is his name Hive? Okay,
Yeah.
I don't even think they officially like named it on the show.
No, but that's who it is, and they, you know, they've said that's who it is, and when you see the scenes for the next week, they kind of show, yeah, he's got the Hive appearance too.
So Ward or Hive is talking to Powers Booth, you know, and he's like he's like another villain, you know. He's like, oh, I want to take over the world. But instead, you know, like, he actually gets questioned on this, you know, like, Ward's like, well, what do you want? You're worth like $9 billion. You know,
it's
that
almost like a slap in the face to Legends of Tomorrow.
You know,
like they basically took the entire premise of Legends of Tomorrow, called it into question.
Yeah, called everything into question. Yeah, he's like, you're worth like $9 billion. You know, you have that gives you as much influence as you want. You know, you can have anything you want with that much money. You know, you can influence whoever you want, live the life you want. You know, why do you want to rule the world? I mean, that's not what you're after. And he's like, he's like, and then he says something like, well, you know, it's the power. He's like, that's it. It's power. You want power. That's what you want. And I thought that was like a really cool scene, you know, because it's really like dissecting it. And it's like, you know, it's a real contrast to something like Legends Tomorrow, where these motives like are never questioned or called into question, you know. And
because plot. Yeah,
because plot. But it was really cool to see like that character's like motivations called into question by like the new Ward. Hive, who was just really awesome this episode, I thought.
It's so interesting seeing this completely different take on what is in some ways the same character, but in some ways not. Because even though he's inhabited by this parasite and it's taken over him and he's dead, there is this element of like it kind of shares past memories, and it takes certain personality traits from the host and stuff like that is kind of like mixed in there. So it's a little bit more complex than it's just this other thing. I like taken over Ward.
I also like the scene where like he has Malik put on the exoskeleton, and then he has Malik kill the guy, saying, you know, and he's the whole time he's telling him, you know, you won't feel true power until you take a life, until you look in a man's eyes and watch him die. And then he starts recounting, you know, Coulson killing Ward, and he's like, you know, like when Coulson like and he says me like he is Ward, you know. He says, you know, like when Coulson killed me, you know, and he looked at you could see in his eyes, you know, he felt that power, but he was frightened by it at the same time. And I was like, oh, that just gave me chills. I was like, that actor who plays Ward, like his performance this episode, top notch.
Brett Dalton, I think is
Brett Dalton, top notch, because like he didn't do much like this episode, but just because you knew how the way he carried himself, and like just the knowledge of how powerful made him intimidate. Like he was super intimidating this whole episode without having to really do much at all. I think that was really cool how they pulled that off. You know,
he really is probably the best part about S.H.I.E.L.D. right now.
Yeah, he is the best part about S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. I would agree. And then like the main plot of this episode was there's an Inhuman, and if you touch him, then you see how you die. And you see like
you see something along those lines. You see like you see a future involving death.
I thought I was like trying to like, I thought it was like basically you see your own death. And what happened was Daisy touched him this episode, and she saw a future where presumably Coulson shoots her. All this crazy stuff. It's not like a straightforward. It's not like
it's snowing where Fitz and Simmons are. There's all sorts of little weird cues. Yeah,
so she gets this image of the future, and she's like, "Well, we got to change it. and everybody's like on board with that. They're like, yeah, we know the future. We can totally change it. And then like Fitz is like, no, because that's not how physics works.
Yeah.
I thought this was cool. I thought they actually like brought up like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sounded like actual science, like actual research. And I thought
it did. It sounded very smart.
It sounded very smart. And I thought, wow, TV shows don't do that. They just make up their own science and run with it.
I know some shows have done some smarter stuff, like Sarah Connor Chronicles. The way they handled time travel was they went into like the idea of like string theory. Yeah, and that was really smart. And that's very smart the way they did it. And yeah, this is it's another kind of more scientific theory about time travel. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, because like
the way they presented it.
The way Fitz explains it is time doesn't exist. There's no such thing as time. That's the fourth dimension, and it's all fixed. So like the past is fixed, the present is fixed, the future is fixed. There is no
change.
It's
all one thing. Yeah.
It's all one thing. So there is no changing the future because it's already set. So according to Fitz, and there's like this little debate, like, well, is Fitz right? Can they change the future? And then I thought it was like really cool as the episode went on, you found out that Fitz was more or less right. That like everything happened according to Daisy's visions,
but she didn't interpret it necessarily the right way.
Yeah, she just didn't interpret events in the right way. Because, she saw things in like flashes, it's like kind of vague what was going on, what she saw. And so her interpretation of events was flawed. But the events
manga I read that handled the same kind of idea. And what was really interesting about it, what they did is that the guy kind of could change events, but he had to change events in such a way that they resembled the events he already saw. So like, he was stabbed in this thing, like a guy was running past him and it was like he had stolen a purse and he had his knife out and ended up stabbing him. And so in his vision, he saw that he was like bleeding out and stuff. And so he was able to protect himself and survive, but he had to like basically produce the same results as he saw in his vision. So he had to like set up something kind of like a squib that would bleed out and all the stuff so that basically it would just become like his new future would just become a different interpretation of the future he already saw.
Oh, I see.
So it's really cool. It might seem like a limiting thing to say like, okay, well, time, when you take time travel in that sense, you're basically saying, okay, well, everything's just destined to happen. So why bother doing anything? You can get that kind of mentality, but you can go beyond that in that same theory by addressing things like that, of like misinterpreting visions or having visions that could come true in different ways and still be like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of approach. So I'm interested to see if they're going to start approaching that or not. But right. I mean, the character who has the visions is like dead, right? So
yeah, the character has the visions dead. So basically, everything works out more or less the way Daisy saw them, proving Fitz correct in the end that, there was no changing the future because even though they tried to shuffle things around, like they tried to have like May go in instead of Daisy and it didn't work out because Lash or the professor who changes into Lash, he unexpectedly turns himself in right before they're ready to leave with May, and May's like, oh, I gotta go because then Coulson's like, no, you gotta, this might be the last time you can talk to your ex-husband, you need to stay here. That
was really well done too. The whole thing about Lash was really well done.
The moments between May and Lash, that was really well done.
The idea of like losing himself and the idea that like, even though it seemed like when he was in control, he was still kind of embracing the side of Lash and enjoying like killing the other Inhumans and stuff, and saying that that's because there was a part of Lash that was always awake in him and a part of him that was always awake in Lash, but he's slowly being taken over, and then soon there won't be anything of him left. It'll just be Lash. So that kind of like approach, it was really interesting and emotional, and the scenes with May were really cool about that. But it was, again, it kind of played into the whole idea of what Lincoln was talking about in this episode, about how inhuman powers aren't random. They're like by design, you know, because they're literally, Inhumans were basically created by the Kree, you know? And so there's like an intelligence to their design. Not like a spiritual intelligence, but an alien intelligence.
Well, an actual alien intelligence to their design. Yeah, exactly. So that's basically it. You know, I got I'd say Arrowverse. This is what actual good writing looks like, because it's it's restrained. B, it's smart. D, I mean, the dialogue was even on point. You know, there's like
D, there's no Felicity.
Or no Felicity equivalent character. You know, I mean, I'm not saying like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has like been like the best show. I mean, it has been awful itself at points.
Notorious first season, yeah. Yeah,
the notorious first season. But this was actually like, this was really well done. I want to see more of this level, you know, because I just felt like, it's like everything I've been complaining about in the other shows was like addressed in this episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. and done so much better.
Exactly. As we were talking about the problems with, especially with Legends of Tomorrow, I just kept thinking like, God, I want to mention S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'll have to wait until we start talking about S.H.I.E.L.D.
I was thinking that too, because when I was talking about Vandal Savage, I wanted to bring up Gideon Malik and Ward's conversation, but I'm like, no, gotta save that for the S.H.I.E.L.D. discussion. And I'm like, because it's so relevant, and the fact that these two things came up on the same week is kind of funny, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. So, but it was, this is by far the best of the three shows that aired this week. And routinely this season, I think for the most part, it's been the best of the regular shows outside of when, you know, Daredevil season 2 was on and, you know, stuff like that. Unless it's like, it tends to be that, unless it's one of the Marvel Netflix shows or just like a really spectacular episode of like The Flash or something that just comes out of nowhere and doesn't happen to have all the flaws that series normally has. Unless those are the cases, like S.H.I.E.L.D. seems to take it every week.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's it for this week. There was no Flash this week, so that's why we didn't discuss that. But that wraps it up for another episode of TVE versus Marvel versus DC. I was your host, Will Rohrig. Tyson Gifford joined me tonight. I want to let you know that we are doing our weekly podcast this Thursday, the TV set. And
the weekly set.
And definitely, we'll be discussing other
Magicians.
Definitely Magicians. It's the season finale this week. And probably some Crazy Ex-Girlfriend too. I've been watching that. I'm trying to catch up now. I've
been catching up on my TV queue, so I'm blazing through a bunch of TV shows right now. So I might have a quick like rapid fire of a bunch of different kind of shows that have been on. I just finished Hap and Leonard, so yeah, there's some other stuff to talk about. So we'll figure out what's going on with that. Have you watched The Path yet?
I haven't watched I don't know if I want to start The Path. I don't. I'm probably not.
It would be so perfect because we were doing Magicians and 11/22/63, so we had a Hulu show and a sci-fi show, and we could just continue that.
I'm aware. I don't want to start. I don't want to start a new show. To be honest, right now. So I'm like, I'm kind of at the point where like everything's like ending, and so now I'm like seeing an opportunity to catch up on other stuff that I'm behind on. And so I kind of want to shift my focus to that stuff as stuff I'm actively watching ends.
Once Upon a Time.
And Once Upon a Time and Felicity fanfiction. Definitely. Walking Dead is a big one I want to get caught up on. right now. So I'm probably going to shift my focus more towards that as stuff.
You're what, 2 seasons
ends.
behind on that?
2 seasons, yeah, behind on that now. And so I want to, definitely want to get my focus back on The Walking Dead. And,
yeah, we can talk about that week to week if you're watching some of that, because I've watched, Walking Dead up to what's current. So if you start watching, you can bring up stuff and we can talk about that on the podcast.
Sweet. Yeah, that works. Definitely. So that's Thursday. Make sure you tune in for that. Anything else you want to plug, Tyson?
No, that's pretty much it. The only thing is that, our site's been a little bit slow on content besides the podcast and this video series. As you can tell by the lovely video we have right here and the new, lower thirds graphics we have on our screen. I've been kind of spending a lot of money and redoing our my room and into like a little mini kind of studio. So I got a backdrop here, lovely backdrop, and I got a new webcam. That's why the video quality is so much better, and lighting. And, so that's kind of been what I've been doing in the last like week or so. I've been really building that stuff up. So, look forward to seeing maybe some more video content on the show on the site in general. But also I want to start writing some more stuff. I've just been so busy with all of this.
That's another thing too. I want to write some more content. Like, I want to do my thing. I want to do like my thing about canceled shows, and I feel like I can't because of the combination of work and just having to power through all these shows in order to be able to do this and do the podcast, you know. So between actually watching stuff and like work and then trying to find time to like socialize, it's been hard to like fit like writing into that schedule.
It's a tricky balance. You have to adjust the way your entire life is flowed. Cause like, as I've gotten busier, I've been like organizing my life more where I'm like, okay, I have this much time to do this and this much time to do that. And that's not the way I used to live my life. So I'm living my life in this much more structured way in order to get stuff done. And, I'm hoping to be able to kind of continue on with that and be able to kind of multitask and do more stuff.
Do you find that like more beneficial now that you're like?
Oh yeah, definitely. The thing is, like, there's always that part of you that just wants to like be kind of lazy and just go, oh, I'll just do it later or something. And then you start slipping.
Yeah.
But like you tend to have more energy and you get way more done than you think you could normally do when you just kind of have more structure in your day-to-day life, you know? When you kind of plan things out like, okay, I need to do this and I need to do that. And I'm trying to kind of do that more. This is a cognitive behavior therapy. So thank you for watching the cognitive behavior therapy, podcast.
More cognitive behavior therapy tips coming next week.
Same cognitive behavioral therapy time.
Yes. Oh, and I forgot gaming too. Like, I need to get my gaming time in.
My gaming is basically Miitomo right now. I'm just a lot of Miitomo.
So that's about it for this show. We'll be back next week. I think when's Flash coming back?
I think Flash is on next week, and it looks like a really good episode.
Nice. So Flash will be back next week. I think Arrow went on hiatus again after this episode.
Hopefully.
So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think next week is going to be Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and S.H.I.E.L.D. So no Arrow because that went on hiatus till like I believe the 23rd, which is whatever. I mean, after what they did.
This should be a good week because if we don't have Arrow, then that's no Felicity.
Exactly.
Legends of Tomorrow is doing the Jonah Hex episode, which I'm really looking forward to. The episode of The Flash looks like it might be the best episode ever for that series based on the preview.
Nice.
The preview looks so good. So I'm so excited for that. And then, S.H.I.E.L.D. just coming off of an amazing episode has my hopes really high for that show.
Hopefully S.H.I.E.L.D. keeps it up with the next episode. And, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been solid this season, so I'm not worried about S.H.I.E.L.D. suddenly being bad. Like next episode, it's a possibility. I mean, Daisy could turn into Felicity.
She kind of was for some people early on, so.
Early on, yeah, Daisy was like very much a Mary Sue early on, I think.
Yeah. She was even a hacker when she first came on, so she was the Felicity in a sense.
She was the Felicity of S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah. Especially like I felt last season was like the zenith of Daisy being S.H.I.E.L.D.'s equivalent of Felicity, because it seemed like last season was like all about Daisy to like a ridiculous degree. It was all about Daisy. Half the plot was about her. And it just felt like, to her critics, to people accusing Daisy of being a Mary Sue, it seemed like that was vindication. But it seems like they seem to have toned that down a lot this season, to like make her more an actual part of the team than like she's like the best, most amazing character on the team. She's like the most important person. So they reined that in, and I gotta give them like a lot of respect for that.
Definitely.
All right. So that's it for tonight. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.